All right, so far I have my onion skin layer. I have my single vector shape. So if I turn off the two raster layers, I can see the vector I've built so far on a blank background. It's larger than 8 by 10 inches at more than 300 pixels per inch, so I'm good to go. I click on my shape layer. I'm going to turn on my onion skin and keep using these vector shape tools. I do not want you to use the line tool because the line tool is not a shape, right? That's only for, it's like an unclosed vector. And the custom shape tool, you can see the custom shapes here. The shapes that are in this version of Photoshop are incredibly complicated. I'm not sure why they don't give you like stars or hearts or more useful like Photopea does. You could always load them because you can find lots of vector shapes online that then you're able to use and load. But what I'm going to recommend is you just avoid these until like finishing at the end. So really, we're going to learn how to make everything out of just rectangles, ellipses, triangles, polygons, and, oh, you do have a star tool now that's been added for this version. So just basically the simplest shapes we can. So I'm going to make another ellipse for the eyeball. Again, to get it perfect, I can hold down Shift. There's a lot of perfect circles and emojis. And then I can go right to the Move tool if I want. But the reason it doesn't look like it's done anything is because it's going to be the same color, the same properties as the layer that you started with. So how do I change it to white? I double click on that layer window and I'll choose white. And that way I can kind of move it in place. Okay, now I just made two perfect circles. I've just placed them. I don't really need to draw another perfect circle when I can just duplicate the ones I've made. So I'm going to do Command J, duplicate it, change its color to black. And now how do I make it shrink? Right? This is just like our line art from exercise 1. We're going to use Edit Free Transform. And the shortcut for that is Command T. So that will give me the transform box, just like when I make the shape for the first time. And then to squeeze it towards the middle and keep it a perfect circle, I'm going to hold down Option and drag from the corner. Then hit Return. So now if I turn off my onion skin, these are the three vector shapes I have. 3 circles with no stroke with different fill colors. Might as well continue with the cheeks, right? So duplicate that, but we're going to change it pink. And I can kind of just guess at the pink because I can always get it perfect later. How would I get it perfect? I'd turn this layer off, I'd turn this layer on, I'd double click here. I mean a perfect match. Double click here and then use the eyedropper to match it exactly. But I can do that at any time. So now that I've got that pink circle, I'm going to move it and I'm going to hit Command T to grow it and place it and get it where I want. And again, we're just trying to make something exist right now. We're not trying to get things perfect until we get used to these things. Now, I want another cheek on the other side. So what can I do? I can duplicate Command J and then just use the Move tool and just move that duplicate over. And to lock that duplicate on the same axis, I can hold down Shift. So it's going to kind of want to lock it anyway. But there's a lot of duplicating and replicating. Now, how do I get that to go underneath the eye? I simply move it underneath, like stacks of paper. Okay, I might as well move the other one too underneath because I'm going to build now these more complicated shapes, like the squinty eye, which I think I'll use for my pop eye, right? So how can I build that? I'm going to make a new kind of shape. That's going to be a rectangle. And right away, I can tilt it, but I can't move it like I would a transform box without drawing a new rectangle inside of it. So Command Z, go to the Move tool, and move it where you want it. And then how can I get it to curve that way? Command T, right-click, and warp. This way I can curve the bottom of it, curve the top of it, but you can see how crazy these shapes get really quickly, which is okay, but if you're trying to match perfectly, it takes some practice and some patience. Now, instead of trying to round out these edges, the better way is to simply copy a black circle and then shrink that down to round out the edge for you. This is done all the time in vector imaging, but you want to make it the right size. And sometimes that requires distorting it a little bit. So these are called compound shapes, right? So now I have this shape, but it's really made of the circle and the rectangle. Then I can take that circle and I can duplicate it again and then move it with the Move tool and round it on this other side. And use Command T to help it go from end to end. Again, not trying to get perfection, just trying to get something to exist. So if I'm really picky, there's a tiny little 1 pixel dip there, which I can fix with Free Transform. All right, now I've got this compound shape. I can show that again, and I can build it from scratch with a rectangle. Ooh, need my coffee. This time I'm going to keep the rectangle on a horizontal, and then I'm going to Command T, right-click inside, and warp it. And this way it will bow more easily because it's on a horizontal axis. Then I hit return, and then I can hit Command T and rotate it. So sometimes rotating it first makes your job harder. And now that it's rotated, now I can use Command T and Shift to play with its proportions. And right-click and warp, and I can try to round out this edge. Round it into the one I have. Okay. And now instead of trying to round out this edge, which can be difficult, I'm going to do that same trick. I'm just going to use the circle and then use the Move tool and Free Transform to get it to round that for me. Command T to Free Transform. I'm just going to try using Scale and Shift. And if you're not getting it accurate enough, you can always zoom in. There we go. Okay, so now I have that shape. But that shape is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. So I want to group them together to make it easier to play with them, even duplicate them. So how do I do that? I can hold down Command while I select multiple layers. So I'm going to select all of those layers. And once they're all selected, there's 5 of them in total, I'm going to click on the folder icon that's at the bottom of the layer window. And that's going to put them all into a group. And I can even label that group, like double click on the name of the group and call it the wink. That way, now I can move it as a group. If I turn off auto select, I can move the whole thing instead of the individual shapes. And, this is my favorite, I can free transform the whole thing. Command T, and I can rotate it, I can scale it, and now this is when I start thinking about customizing it. So I want it to be like Popeye. So I'm going to turn on my inspiration and put it in the corner here. So his eye for my inspiration is more at a downward angle. So I might right click and flip this vertically. And then I might rotate it like this. All right. And I might decide to distort it. Bring it a little bit closer together. Pull this side down a little. Now remember, those are still individual shapes that are all vectors. But because I group them together, I can move them and work with them all together. Okay, what's next? Probably the most difficult shape in mine are these arcs here. So I'm going to show you another trick. I could make that in a similar way using vector shapes, but another form of vector shape are typefaces. And I didn't show this in the other class, but I said that you were allowed to use typefaces if you wanted to. So if I go to the type tool and I choose a typeface, I want one kind of like this, and I make an M. Let's see, where did it put it? Use the type tool. I'll make a type box here. I'm going to take it out of the wink folder on top. Okay. And now I'm just going to make an M, a lowercase, or maybe an uppercase M. No, that lowercase works pretty well. It's filling it with what's called Latin text, so don't worry about that. Now I'm going to make this really big. So I've made the M, but I can maybe find a better typeface for it. There we go. That might get closer to the shape I want. Or this one. And then I can use the type attributes. I already have the bold on. Let's see. These are what are called fonts. These are variations to the typeface. So I'm going to use this one, Demi Bold. There we go. Okay, now, how do I change it into a vector shape? I just leave it as a type, and that will be a vector. So as I grow it, not with the point size here, but instead with Command T, just like I would with vector shapes, and I can free transform it in limited ways. I can't warp typefaces and keep them vectors, but I can distort them and skew them. Right? That can get me close. So typefaces can be interesting to try to work with, but I want you to keep them as type. Do not rasterize them. Do not right-click and rasterize. But you can kind of see how those look like kissy lips, right? So sometimes typefaces can be a shortcut for vector shapes. I want kind of this weird butt chin. So I'm going to try it in this way. I'm going to use ellipses, and I'm going to build 2 of them. I'm going to make their color kind of a dark brown. Duplicate